girls and ghouls. This is another episode of the mailbag. Now, this week is absolutely incredible. I got a couple of boxes. I want to thank both Tom Nordley and Shelves of Glory, my buddy Bob Chamberlain. I got a couple of boxes of stuff this week that were just filled with source material and good books, and it really meant a lot to me. I cannot thank you guys enough. It's absolutely incredible. If you're interested in sending stuff in, use my contact information to get a hold of me, and I'll have you send some stuff to the studio. But as I said, wanted to thank Tom and Bob up front for their absolutely insane donations. Let's get going on some of Tom's stuff that he sent in. Some of the more interesting stuff he sent in were these couple of old like magazine fanzine type deals. This one is obviously an old Batman Bob Kane piece. It didn't have a whole heck of a lot in here when at first glance. But what's really cool is it has an Atom Man reprint. You never see like actual Jerry Robinson Atom Man. And this is all black and white. Looks like it's taken from like old photo stats. Super cool. Loved checking this out. I got into looking into Atom Man because of the Watchmen, the real story behind the Watchmen. And that was a real cool treat to check out. I've never seen that in black and white before. And it's a little bit light, but it's super cool. And RBCC, I had never heard of, right? So, RBCC, basically, this is believe this is the King Kong tribute. Yeah. So this is the King Kong tribute issue, right? I love the original King Kong, so I know a ton of this stuff, but this is littered with just interesting stuff, like the Severin Hobbit here for Lord of the Rings. The one interesting, it's kind of sad, the one interesting thing is, this is the Information Center, and the Information Center was written by Don Rosa, but I guess Don Rosa quit like the issue before this. That's the downside. You get like a little editorial piece from him over here explaining what's going on. And the upside is they reprint a bunch of the best of his stuff since they don't have a new column. And really, like, Information Center is these, like, interesting, it's pre-internet. So it's, like, lists of, like, hey, these are all the type of stories, or these are all the issues that this and such guy worked on. These, you know, who inked what, when it was released. It's super cool. It's a very interesting glimpse into, like, why fanzines existed, really. The King Kong stuff, I'm mostly familiar with. I used to be super huge into, I'm still huge into movies, but I used to be really big into movies. The one really cool thing that I like about this is I love some of these reproductions. I just love when they reduce this black and white stuff to where it's like almost vectorized looking. But the really interesting thing in here is they have an article on Kong Uncensored. Now, if you're not familiar, King Kong was deemed way too violent when it was released, so there are deleted scenes, and a bunch of them are just lost. There are stills of the few that exist, but I had never seen the storyboard reproduced this nicely. It's absolutely gorgeous. Walks you through the changes. At one point, like, Kong reaches in to grab Fay Ray, right? It's not her, and he just chucks her out the window. What is cool is that in the back here, you get tons of really interesting old ads. I love looking at these old, like, fanzine ads just to figure out what were people doing, what were people reading, what were people interested in, and possibly, what am I hunting for that has articles that I need. Ton of Star Trek stuff in here. Like, there's a Frazetta issue of this Herb Doom, I think, or Obdum, something like that. Just great. Some really, really interesting stuff. I mean, original C.C. Beck paintings. Somebody give me a time machine. This is pretty interesting. It just talks about like the great pulp heroes, Savage, Doc Savage, obviously, The Shadow, Spider Avenger, a lot of newer movies and stuff. But it's cool. It did have a nice little piece on the pulp heroes of yesteryear that I actually enjoyed reading. Shouldn't spoil that. So the Wally Wood checklist. Now, again, a lot of people are going to say like the internet's made this obsolete, blah, 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 blah. And to a certain extent, yes, but you don't get nearly as nice of an annotation. I am working on a Wally Wood piece right now with Tom, who sent me this book, and this is going to be indispensable. Having a chronological rundown of his stuff. I wish we got more books like this. Tomorrow's Publishing, if you can support Tomorrow's, please do it. They're an incredibly important company doing historical work for the medium. And when I was thinking of the short list of guys that I wanted to get involved with as far as the channel for like sponsorship, maybe publishing a book, Tomorrow's is the top of my list. They're absolutely great. And I can't thank Tom enough for that. We're going to save these two, all of that stuff actually, for a second. Now, in my last move, I lost most of my trade paperbacks, my hardcovers. I don't really want to go into it. My landlord's a piece of crap. I lost a lot of stuff. So I lost all of my Craig Stein stuff. And honestly, I had only had scans of a bunch of stuff from one of these Craig Stein books. But Tom sent me these 3 of them, actually, absolutely incredible collections of his stuff. They're all taken from the Severin recolorings. They're all nicely restored. It is really nice to be able to actually have this again. The doc that I did on Craig Stein really left a big impact on me. I had respected him prior to that, but like having all of this stuff to go through again and look at just there's just something about his work that I am absolutely entranced and enthralled by, and I will never get over, I don't think. The versatility, the genius, and this has got so much of his good stuff. The Flying Machine right here, the Terrorists. The Flying Machine is obviously, that's a high watermark in comics. Pipe Dream, I also always really liked that. Catacombs, I think this might be my favorite story of his ever. There's something about the coloring on this, the way that it's laid out, is absolute perfection. And I can't thank Tom enough for sending me this. He also sent me both of the Greg Sadowski Craig Stein books. These are really cool because they go through a little bit more of his fine art as well as his comic book stuff. You get a lot of his paintings. And this and the big B. Craig Stein comics, I had only had scans of the non-art pages. I just wanted the editorial from it. So I have never actually gotten to look through this prior to Tom sending it in. And it offers an incredible glimpse into like just how versatile Craig Stein was. He never fails to impress me. He never fails to surprise me with some of the stuff that he pulls out of his bag of tricks. Consummate, absolutely wonderful artist. If you are unfamiliar with Bernard Craig Stein, I do recommend checking out the doc that I did about him. It covers most of like really important stuff. If you're interested after that, Messages in a Bottle is the perfect place to start. There's an Amazon affiliate link in the description below. I do recommend, like, if you want to get into Craig Stein, if you really want to start trying to appreciate the masters of the medium, check this book out. It's cheap. It's easy to get. If that interests you further, get B. Craig Stein. And if you can, snag B. Craig Stein comics. B. Craig Stein comics, the last time I looked, was a little bit pricey because it contains reproductions of his stuff. Now, the nice thing about this book, thing that I love, slightly oversized, So the bleed is given a little bit more room. That, okay, sometimes a detractor, not here. Okay, really well produced. And these pages, this is a wonderful combination of the nice thick Baxter style paper that we got in the 80s and the stuff that we've got now that's got a little bit more tooth and bite to it. It retains the color. The line work is absolutely gorgeous. I don't think that the story selection in B. Kriegstein Comics is as strong as Messages in a Bottle. It's a little bit more expensive. It is oversized. I think the reproduction is done just a little bit better. The printing, I think probably because of the pages. The paper stock that they chose to use. And there is some stuff that's not in the other book, but there's quite a bit of overlap as well. So, you know, if you're picking up B. Kriegstein Comics, do be aware of that. Don't super overpay for that. I can't wait to go back through that all chronologically. We're starting off with books that got sent to me, guys, and then we're going to move on to the really fun independent stuff. This was the surprise, right? So, I just told Bob, please send me good stuff. And he sent me this book, Steve Ditko, Space War. And Space War is a collection of black and white stuff from the earlier parts of Ditko's career. Now, what's interesting is there are entire stories in here that look extremely atypical for Ditko. They're unfinished. Look at the jump between these two. Like, you can see the refined faces. These are the Ditko faces that we're used to. Look at that. The heavy brushwork. There's some stuff in here from when he's just starting. And it's cool because you get to see him refine and work through a lot of stuff in these pages. They're not necessarily presented in like an evolutionary order, but you can definitely see it as you flip through this book. I mean, that's undeniable. You know what I'm saying? You look at that, that's Steve Ditko. You look at that, there's all the elements, the building blocks of stuff, but there's also, like, probably because of the inker on it, I would guess, a lot of super heavy, like Kirby-esque shadows and black, like lots of black holes. That's very much not Ditko. Composition is not Ditko on a lot of this stuff. The gloomy one was another one where you can see elements where he's like really refining and coming out of that 1940s, 50s style of art that he was doing on stuff like Thing or It. I can't remember the name of the title for Marvel. This is the one, Juggernauts of Jupiter. This looks crazy. Now, right here, primetime Steve Ditko, right? I mean, look at that architecture. That's Steve Ditko all day. Juggernauts of Jupiter, though, these faces look nothing like a normal Ditko. Look at this. I mean, it's bizarre. And I imagine a lot of this has been kind of retouched for this when I'm looking at this planet and stuff. I'm not buying that it was that clear. But the line work, I don't think, has been monkeyed with all that uber a lot. And man, it's nuts. Like, look at that. That looks like any number of people, but not Steve Ditko. You get a Ditko shape, still refining stuff. Super freaking interesting collection. You see some really cool elements of stuff that would show up later. Like, that looks like him doing like a Ramita style face. And the strange guests of Saurus, or Saurus, whatever it is. This is where you can see like kind of the evolutionary jump. He's got a lot of simplification going on, but he doesn't quite have all of his Ditko lines down yet. The rendering on this face is beautiful. Like, that's a great freaking face. Super amazing face. Probably owes a great deal to a more careful inker as well, would be my guess. or he was inking his own stuff. I could flip through this whole thing. It's a wonderful collection of his early stuff. See a lot of evolution in Ditko that you don't see represented a whole lot. I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and chronologically go through this because I'm curious as to it doesn't appear to be published chronologically. So I'd like to read the stories chronologically and see if I can start putting kind of the evolutionary jumps going on in between all of this stuff together. Great book. I highly recommend, like, if you come across this, definitely pick it up. It was I had not heard of it. It was super interesting. Now, books that I've definitely heard of but haven't gotten a chance to check out. This monster, man. Monsters. Barry Windsor Smith. I am so excited to finally be able to dive into this before too long. I know you've seen flip-throughs of this on, every channel imaginable, but I really want to go into this. I want to look at, like, Barry Windsor Smith, what he was thinking, and he's done a couple of interviews, which is very rare, and I think I've got enough of a grasp that I can kind of, like, go through here once I'm done reading it and do a pretty nice piece on, like, the evolution of monsters, because this book represents I think, like, an evolutionary step in comic book artists and the way that they're going to approach things. I think there are probably going to be more people that spend 30 years on a graphic novel. I know that sounds crazy, but I think there are going to be, and I think there are going to be more people as dedicated to the craft as Windsor Smith is. And this book is an integral part of that, as well as an integral part of, like, taking back the stories and the characters and all of the stuff that mainstream comics drains out of you. So now we're gonna you know what, we're holding off on those. I want to save those for last, because those are treats from Tom that blew my mind. This is some more stuff that was sent to me by Bob. I've never heard of Mano Destino. I'm super big into wrestling, though. I'm a total mark when it comes to wrestling stuff, when it's done well. The art in this was really interesting. I'd never heard of anybody that worked on this, and instantly when I saw Gonzo, I was like, ooh, what? Is it a made-up title? I still don't know if it's his real name or not. I am in love with this coloring. A lot of the printing techniques that they use on this, really interesting. Would have loved to have seen this on, like, Baxter newsprint. I think this would have reproduced a whole heck of a lot better. But man, this book is really interesting. I checked out, like, the first maybe 10 or 15 pages, and it starts off as, like, this, pulse pounding, action filled wrestling piece. But you get some, it's nice and character based as well. Tons of really, and the cartooning in this is very interesting. I'm super looking forward to checking this out. And some of the later fight, because I did flip through here. Some of the later fights when he gets back into wrestling, man, there is a comprehension of anatomy and how wrestling moves work you don't always see well represented. And I really, really like the way that they went about this, and the body character types, like the builds of stuff. Color palette also, not gonna lie, super into this color palette, man. Just dino. And like the color jobs where they do the two blacks. We used to see the old red on black fade and then the solid black in the center. Love that. Love it. Now, I got a couple of books from a guy named Tony Sadowski. Now, a couple of them, I don't want to show the naughty words. Oh no. YouTube doesn't like those for the algorithm. This is, oh no, weird shit. It's a collection, it's an anthology of horror stories. I am a mark for horror stories, guys. Especially anthologies. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So if you guys are working on any of that stuff, you're looking to get on a channel, you probably found your guy here, because I like a lot of it. Especially the magazine style stuff that's been coming out, like the magazine style, larger, even the black, especially the black and white. This one, I think, has the kind of paper that I really would have liked to have seen for Mano Destino. This is very much, I think, like, it feels influenced by stuff like Grand Design. And I was really, really digging the art in this. The way that it translates onto the page seems very much probably like the way that it was produced on the original page. Extreme variance in art in here as well. Tony Sadowski does mostly like horror, and I do mean horror. There's some sci-fi stuff in here, really interesting. This isn't the only book that Tony sent me. He also sent me Skin Deep and Return to Rander, and these are both like Return to Rander very much like looks and reads almost like a manga or an anime, but done as like a complete outlaw magazine. This book is crazy. I was digging it. I flipped through here. You can see what's interesting is in in weird stuff. I'm just gonna call it weird stuff. Sorry guys. YouTube algorithm, blame them. So in weird stuff, like there's a lot of variance in art, but it's from story to story. In this, you can see his style variance from page to page. Very, very interesting to watch. I love the way that he does the skulls. Tony just got away with skulls for me. Yeah, and this is another one of his horror graphic novels. This one he did with Ryan Miller. Skin Deep. Didn't get a chance to read much of this one. I was trying to check out Return to Rander, and I read all of Weird Stuff. Skin Deep, it kind of gets you like, it's got some like okay graphic, maybe some horror stuff or whatever. Definitely some NSFW stuff. But then about halfway through the book, yeah, it just goes berserk, dude. And guys like are pulling off their faces. I mean, this book gets crazy. Have not had a chance to check out Skin Deep all the way, but if you are into like crazy body horror, I'm gonna say probably Tony Sadowski's got you covered. Now, just to show like, hey, Uncle Jerk loves everybody, right? Going directly from Tony Sadowski and Skin Deep and like people ripping off their own faces, we got Silvertooth starring the Dark Wings. Now, Nick Bouchard's been watching the channel for a while. Super nice guy. And as far as I know, orders of this original graphic novel all come with these nice, cool little handmade sketches. If you guys are looking to like score points and get on the channel, definitely I would say that sketches or remarks on the books do not hurt your chances. I'm easily bribed. Silvertooth, number one, he went with a soft velvet cover. I am absolutely in love with soft velvet covers. Oh my God. They just feel so absolutely wonderful in your hands. I've talked about the fetishization of comic books a lot in the past. This is one of those really well done pieces like that. Another thing, it's got not all, but it's got a bunch of really cool concept pieces, sketches, layouts, and a nice pinup section in the back. It's just K-Cotillion art as well, by the way. I'm going to be talking to this dude soon. I really like the color choices on a lot of this. The blues and the reds that they go with, and the oranges. I am a mark for like orange and blue, and they really use the color palette well. And then there's a second story in here, and the art style changes up fairly well. I was impressed with this. I want more of these fake ads. I don't know if there's anything more in a comic that I love than fake ads, which is one of the things that just like I was so infatuated with when it came to Tales to Enlighten. So if you're looking for a nice like fun light read, Silvertooth was fun. I did read this. It was a quick, nice, fun read. We're getting into the like creator-owned stuff. I wanted to talk a little bit about these guys' Contraband. And Contraband, I think it's Contraband Press, not Contraband Comics, but just Contraband Press. Contraband got a hold of me about their series Lumpy Slump, and I did a little write up for their Kickstarter. I don't actually know if they used it. I think they did, but Lumpy Slump is freaking fun. Okay, I want to talk about Lumpy Slump first. So Lumpy Slump is like Gary Panter meets Ian Biederman, if you know who that is, totally run through maybe Yonan Vasquez. It's really original. It's fun. It's about this guy. It's in a post-apocalyptic world. It does remind me slightly of like Jimbo in that sense, but the storytelling sensibilities of this book are very different than Jimbo. Like I would not call him like somebody who's, you know, simply worshiping at the altar of Gary Panter. There's something unique going on here. At one point, he wakes up and he now has a sentient lump on his arm. He's not the smartest cat in the world. He's pretty dumb, and his lump is actually smart. So they're kind of like working their way through this bizarre, abstract, post-apocalyptic world. What's interesting about this is I feel like there's a lot of traditional tattoo techniques. I spent a little bit of time as a tattoo artist, as some of you guys know. This right here very much looks like it is like traditional American tattoo style stuff. That's where I see the Ian Biederman. And then I see a lot of Gary Panter in the designs and the line work. I'm also a huge fan. They went with straight newsprint on this, but they didn't go with like untrimmed newsprint. They nicely cleaned it up. Nothing on here is bleeding, and you hold crisp whites on these pages, which is fairly important when you have these heavy black pages right behind them. And it does work. It's well printed. Lumpy Slump is really just a fun read. It's not inordinately deep. I only got through the first issue. They actually, I didn't even know it was coming out, but they sent me Lumpy Slump 2. And I am going to do a little bit of a spotlight on Contraband and Lumpy Slump. And I do want to get John onto the channel, John Moretta. I'm curious to ask him about all of his influences. Like, if you didn't notice, that's a Frazetta homage right there. This is another Frazetta homage, I believe from Creepy, maybe from Eerie. Lumpy Slump, and I'm not going to open up this one because I want to save this to kind of go through and do an entire episode on. Contraband, really nice guys. I've talked with them several times. Super, super nice guys. And they're putting out some interesting stuff. This is their other book that they sent me, Canadian Crime. Obviously, throwback to the old Warren stuff. It was a super crazy read. I mean, it was all over the place. And when they say Canadian Crime Comics, they ain't kidding. The comic section of this was really fun. There's a wide variety of stuff in here that unfortunately I can't show off too much on the channel. Now, the best thing, you should buy this for this article. Okay? Slaughter of the Innocents. This is a wonderfully laid out piece on the censorship and banning of crime comics in Canada. I know an inordinate amount about Frederick Wortham, about the American Comics Crusade to put EC out of business, you know, all of that stuff. I didn't know diddly about the Canadian struggle to get all of this stuff. And this is not a short article. It has it's annotated. It's got a nice like little bibliography sections down at the bottom. I mean, this article right here, we need a million more things like this. I'm not kidding. I'm not playing. Like, the comic section of this was cool. I enjoyed it. This is worth the $10 alone for this article. I've never found this information anywhere else. It is wonderfully broken down. I cannot wait to start going through some of the annotations in this and actually looking into the history of all of this, because I would really love to do a retrospective on Canadian crime stuff. It got me interested. It got me interested. John's been a huge follower of the channel forever. He's been sending me his book since before I had like a mailbag. And I just wanted to show off the Bubba Patrol. This book is off the wall. It's a parody of the Justice League starring animals. But they're not all Justice League characters. Like Wolverine's in here. There's a cut. Well, definitely not Wolverine. This book is off the wall. I always love whenever John sends me copies of this. I think I've got all the issues of Bubba Patrol that have come out signed by John, just because he's such a nice freaking guy. He always sends it along. Now, treat time. This is one of those ones we're not going to spend an inordinately long time looking at, like right here. Okay? I only say that because this is getting an indie spotlight episode all its own. Hornhelm Studios presents Tom Travers. I've been talking with Tom. We're going to do an episode that's just an indie spotlight on this, and he's going to do a chat. He's working on a book right now. He is just absolutely killing himself. He's also doing a piece for the William Messner Loeb sale. I mean, he is a really just a pleasant guy to deal with. And he also has his game together, which I super appreciate when I deal with people, because I'm not the most organized guy all the time. And man, is it nice when I deal with guys that have their ducks in a row. And Tom is one of those guys, like I said, just super nice. Plus his art is freaking gorgeous. You can see a lot in this. There's like a loose pen work that I kind of see some Bill Sienkiewicz, okay, in the scribbling, but I also see that like maybe vented through early 90s image stuff, and I see a lot of like Chris Baccialo and Joe Mad, a couple other guys when they were into that real heavy like bold outlines, but done with lots of little tiny distinguishable lines. Tom, I follow him on Instagram, and Tom's Instagram page is always crazy to watch. My favorite stuff he does are like his really loose pen, like ballpoint pen pieces. He's got a very intuitive storytelling style. Plus, I love his like designs. Again, big feet, the big hands, that like kind of apish design that you saw from like Joe Mad and again Chris Baccialo back in the day. But totally filtered through, in my opinion, like that also looks very much like Sam Keith. But nothing like any of them. I love that. Tom's got a really unique style, and I feel like there are elements from a lot of places, but it's all Tom. I appreciate that. I love the color work on this stuff too. I'm usually not hot on like super bright digital colors and stuff. This is done right. This is done like when I was talking to Ben Templesmith and he was talking about how he approached digital coloring, I feel like that's a lot of the approach that was taken here, and I really appreciated it. Like I said, I don't want to ramble on too much about this book right at this particular second, because we're going to do an indie spotlight episode on this. I'm going to have Tom on. We're going to do a indie spotlight episode specifically on Hornhelm Studios Presents, and Tom's going to come on and do a chat and hang out with everybody, answer questions. It should be really, really fun. Now, oh shucks. There's so many awesome stickers, guys. I'm sorry I can't show off like all the amazing stickers. I got pins. I mean, this is really taking me back to when I was like into comics in the 90s. And there was all of this awesome ephemera that came with the books. And years later, like, the books don't matter that super duper much to me. But a lot of those stickers, they had like those iconic designs and the perfect distillation of the characters that I fell in love with. And some of the stuff that people include, really incredible. And I want to thank you guys all for that stuff. I actually collect all the stickers. I'm trying to figure out what to do with them. I used to use my tattooed chair, but I don't tattoo anymore. And this is another like a pin I got. We'll be talking about pins and pals later, actually. So, latest issue of Yeet. Now, if you're not familiar, Yeet is the independent book that William Messner Loebs is involved with. It's a collaboration of guys who just make comics. You can support them on Patreon, and in I believe if you just sign up for their like $5 a month tier or whatever, you get copies of Yeet when they come out. There's tons of really fun stuff usually in Yeet. They're flip covers. I hate flip covers. That's the one thing I don't like about this book. I don't like flip books. I don't like them. There's some guys who I think are on the cusp. Some really cool stuff. This reminds me a lot of the fanzines from back in the like 80s and the late 70s when fanzines were dying out. I love that. And the cool part about this issue, the reason that we're talking about this one specifically, it's got a preview for Wonderland, William Messner Loeb's upcoming comic book autobiography, and I am so looking forward to it. The art looks absolutely gorgeous. I hadn't gotten a chance to preview this at all, and I'm ecstatic. I can't wait until this comes out. I hope it opens a few more doors up for Bill, because like I think this shows he still has a lot to give as far as storytelling and working on stuff. The writing on this is gorgeous. The art is great too, but the writing on this is really, really freaking great. So if you haven't checked out Yeet, I highly recommend checking out Yeet. I know you can still get copies of this in case you need your William Messner Loebs fix. That'll get you taken care of. Now, Apex Comics. Apex sent me a really cool package. So, yeah, Apex Comics, longtime follower of the channel, sent in a run of Power Comics. Now, if you're not familiar, he's even got the tie-in issues, Bluebird and Northern Light. I've never even read Bluebird. If you're not familiar with what Power Comics is, not surprising. But what Power Comics is, why it's important, at least to me, especially, first professional work by William Messner Loebs. Nobody collects the rest of the series. Power Comics 1, and this is his second printing, it's got a different cover, but Power Comics 1 is very interesting because it's got a story called A Boy and His Aardvark. It's by Dave Sims, starring Aardvark that's not Cerebus. Now, this is after Cerebus 1. Different design, different character even. Dandy, I believe is his name. But Power Comics, not easy to come by. I'm really gonna, I really want to get a hold of Bill and get him back on the channel and just have him flip through these and talk about the process of making this stuff. There is some truly crazy art in here. Bill talked a little bit with me about this in the interview that we did, and most of this they got the money from like smuggling weed across the border, and he did this with a bunch of like college buddies. It's weird, it's quirky. The awesome thing is, right here in the middle, there's a National Comic Book Retail Directory from 1977. I eat this stuff up. Some great illustrations. There's some like Jose Gonzalez, Robert Crumb. I believe that's a Neil Adams piece. John Romita, excuse me. This one was a really cool one. Heroic Fantasy. I'd never heard of these guys, right? Well, they've got 2 Bernie Wrightson prints I've never seen. I've never seen Conan the Chimerian. I would love to look at some portfolios on the channel. I would love to get out some old portfolios because they're a really wonderful snapshot into not only what that artist was doing at that time, and the pinnacle of what they were doing at that point, but also they represent really good points in time. The only problem is that portfolios are slightly cost prohibitive for me to collect. So if anybody has any cool portfolios from artists that they'd like to see discussed and thrown up and really thrown under a microscope, there's some books in here that I'm going to be doing episodes, just kind of flipping through and looking at and talking about. And I'd love to do that kind of thing with portfolios as well. So this heroic fantasy ad was super. I mean, this is awesome. Whole Border by Mike Kaluta. There's Kaluta prints. There's Wrightson prints I had never seen. Ray Harryhausen, I mean, a god of mine. Now, Night Witch Rising, I believe, is Bill's first story that he ever worked on. I don't believe he did any of the art, but I believe that he did the story. There are some insane panels. The art's a little bit uneven, but there are some truly crazily well done panels in this. I mean, that is a pretty page. It really is. And it's printed so, I love the black and white on there. The use of the gray tones, just absolutely gorgeous. Even on this browning paper, it looks just delicious. 30 years later. So, Night Witch Rising, that's Bill's first story. I kind of want to do an episode where I just talk with him about that. Now, Boy and his aardvark, this is why you're going to have a hard time finding this issue. Okay, because Dave Sim is an aardvark. That is an aardvark, obviously. And it is bizarre. Bizarre allegorical tale of a boy who has a pet aardvark named Dandy. His dad is a Vietnam vet who's absolutely insane and obsessed with turning him into a man. And he tells him that he has to go out and shoot Dandy to become a man. So he gives him a gun. He goes out and he shoots Dandy. He learns to be a man. He comes back and his dad's like, "Oh, did you learn to be a man?" He's like, "Yep." And he pops him, kills him. It is a bonkers story. And the reason that you probably are going to have a beast of a time finding it. This, because Apex is just awesome. He actually printed me out a copy of the first printing wraparound cover. And this is a very important book to Apex. It inspired him to do the cover to his book as an homage right here. So I will try to stick a link to Apex Comics. Highly recommend you check out Apex. Super nice guy. Been following the channel forever. Really looking forward to getting into these power comics with Bill. That should be a lot of freaking fun, I think. This packet just showed up. And it is a massive hunk of stuff. Oh! From a series called Second Shift and Scott Lost. Unfortunately, issue 1's been out of print for a little while, but thankfully, it's all been collected in a nice trade. He also included like all of the issues that he still had in print, just because he's super nice guy. And then, oh, that's interesting. So he's got like a legacy series numbering for his stuff, because I guess they're self-contained stories, but there's also numbering down at the bottom. Wow, that's a crazy concept. Because you got, 2, 3, there's 4, 5, and that's, 1 through 5 in there. But then you got one shot, you got 6 down here, 7. Interesting. So, like, all of these are basically standalones and one-shots. And if you can't tell, or, well, miniseries sometimes, 1 of 2, 2 of 2. If you can't tell, Scott's pretty prolific. He's been doing stuff for a while. The thing that I liked most about when I was really flipping through these books is you can feel yourself kind of growing with him. Like every issue, every story is a little bit tighter, a little bit more refined. there's some really cool stuff in here. And then this is Wanderers of Melisande. Yeah, Scott did the co-plotting and the dialogue and stuff for this. Obviously, pretty heavily influenced by manga, excuse me. But I am just a big sucker when it comes to well done screen tones. And man, they did a great job in this. I usually also, you guys hear me whine about high gloss all the time. They did a great job of getting a nice newsprint style gradient fade on a lot of this. I'd be interested to know how they prepped these files, like where they came from, because you get wonderful break. Like, that looks all traditional to me. It's all been applied, with a computer, but it looks wonderfully traditional because of all the imperfections. But you don't get any of the gnarly pixelation. I forget, there's a specific name for when you take those grids and make them too small or too big for printing. You get these weird design blobs that show up. Not the case here. Very well done with the grayscale shading. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten a chance to actually dig in and read this, but I can tell you that the art on these, freaking phenomenal. It really is. It's a wonderful combination of American sensibilities with a lot of you can tell, just manga. And there's some great sci-fi elements, or sci-fi designs, excuse me, that are kind of combined with fantasy elements, which I haven't seen done a lot. I don't know. This book, I'm looking forward to checking out the Wanderers of Melisande. Ooh, Scott Shaw. Man, nice. Sorry, big fan of Scott Shaw, and apparently variant cover by Scott Shaw. Like I said, unfortunately, I haven't gotten a chance to read them a ton, but I can say that Wanderers of Melisande is worth picking up the first couple of issues just for the art alone. I mean, it really is beautiful. Kevin Delgado, again, we are not going to be talking about these for super long because Kevin's going to be on the channel before too long. He's out on the road right now, touring, man. Living the dream and putting out his own stuff. This is the original version of Tough Stuff, the self-published version, which we looked at in the last episode. And this has subsequently been picked up by Source Point Press. So, it's not out yet. You can still pre-order it. Get to your LCS. Have them order you a copy of Kevin Delgado's Tough Stuff. Keep an eye on the channel for a Indie Spotlight episode. And in that Indie Spotlight episode, let me show this off before I open it up. Thank you to my dickhead mailman who felt the need to shove this into my mailbox like a piece of crap because he can't be bothered to respect anything. This inspired me to talk to his supervisor because this is an awesome design idea. I've seen large VHS and that kind of stuff. I've never seen a cassette this size. It's great. It's absolutely one of the funnest packages I have seen in forever. There's a pin, stickers, tons of cool stuff. Like I said, we're not going to be looking at this too much because we are going to be doing an episode just on Tough Stuff. But if you guys watched the last episode, then you saw Kevin's work. Now, he's really good. He's always solid. But the printing and the actual just the artwork, the composition seem a little bit more tight. He has another one ad, sex toy store. I was dying, dude. Dixar, you got a friend in me, man. Oh man, Kevin. So I put more, please, more fake ads. So many more, all of them. Just make it like a comic book where you got fake ads. I would dig on that. Super great. This series is off the wall. Again, really nice pinup section in the back, as always. The museum. And Kevin goes by Solstice Art on Instagram and social media. You'll see him hanging out all the time on my channel. Just a ridiculously nice guy. And like I said, we will be doing an Indie Spotlight episode. Again, here's a guy that we're going to be doing an Indie Spotlight on, John Golden. Now, John didn't even send me this. Unfortunately, as I stalked his page because the post office made a point of basically bending this thing in half, and man, do I like this comic. This book was sent to me by Victor Alpe. Do you guys know anything about the channel? You know I respect the hell out of Victor's opinion of people. So when he sent me this, I paid attention. When I checked out Boneman, oh man, my mind was blown. He goes by JPEG. His name's John Golden. I looked, and a lot of people have asked because this is a great book. It looks insanely cool, well printed, great paper stock, interesting story. The designs are very unique. I love his cartooning style. Everything down to the lettering in these books is absolutely gorgeous. I knew about Boneman because Victor did a pinup for issue 2, but when I looked, because I wanted to get a replacement since the UPS decided to destroy this, and I really like this freaking book, it's not available. He doesn't sell it online. I don't even know if he has copies or anything. Maybe we can all get together and pester John until he offers up a couple of copies online for all of us. I'm really hoping that when the second issue, which he's working on right now, as far as I know, when that drops, he'll make both of these available online, because the story was, I don't want to spoil too much of the story or get too much into it, because I don't know how many of you guys are going to be able to get this actual book. But Boneman, also the variance in art is really incredible. I love how fluidly John seems to shift between doing a light cartoony style and these very heavy, nice dark spots, heavy spot blacks. Very good use of negative space as well. Good sense of layout, good sense of design. The main characters from this Boneman, they're kind of like the titular characters, the Bonemen. You can see their designs are slightly fluid, like the Max, which I enjoy. I actually see a lot of similarities between some of the movement in like this and some of the stuff that we saw in the Hugh Marks ash can that we looked at from Victor. Some of these designs, though, I mean, just the variance in design and style that you see in this. I also really enjoy his use of pen work. It's a lot of cross hatching, a lot of hatching, a lot of like brush work from what I can tell. Very, very intuitive stuff. And I love the line weight variance, like the juxtaposition between these two designs, like the light and the dark and the dark and the light, is just gorgeous. Dude is not afraid to go for it. And his freaking pinup section, he's got an August piece in here, and I love that we get the black and white back here. And here we go, Instagram, John Golden. It says coming soon on Comixology. I don't know if it's up on Comixology, but we should all get together and pester John until he gets copies of issue 1 for sale physically online. I cannot wait for issue 2. I'm going to be hitting up John. And the only reason we're not looking at this super, super in detail tonight, I will be honest, is I'm hoping to get John on and do a spotlight on this. Now, we're getting into a couple of stuff that we're going to be doing spotlights on. I want to show it off, want to talk about it, but I want to dig super duper duper deep into it. Okay? Now, next guy that we're going to be talking about, his name is Max Fuchs. And FUCHS, guys. But Max is crazy versatile, crazy talented. I hit him up and he sent me he does a book. I will have a Patreon only indie spotlight episode because I can't talk about it too much about his book, The Motherfucking Mother. Obviously, I think you know why I can't talk about it. This is a top notch freaking wrestling book, guys. The art in here, super original. Kind of reminds me somewhat of guys like Jorge Zafino, Ashley Wood. I can see a little bit of that stuff going on. We can look at a little bit of the art in here. But this also shows how versatile he is. We're going to check out another book that he did, Altered Carbon, here in just a second. But the art absolutely is astounding. He's got a Patreon page where you can get access to like the pages as he does them, as well as I believe exclusive pages. And then if you subscribe to the Patreon, as soon as he's done with enough stuff, he puts out physical issues. I think basically Max's dream is kind of just to do the MFer. Guys, I'm sorry. I know it sounds lame. It's just the YouTube algorithm. I want as many people to see and get exposed to this stuff as possible. Which is why I'm showing off this interior art, even though I can't really say the name of it. And there will be an Indie Spotlight episode just on this for the Patreon page. And I'm sorry it's an exclusive to Patreon. It's just, you know, I can put that off of YouTube. So this book, absolutely incredible. If you're into wrestling, great read. If you're into superhero stuff or like mythological, I don't know. I guess mythological isn't the right way to put it. Like grandiose, large storytelling, you'll dig this. It's super interesting, guys. Another book that Max sent along was Halcyon Noir. Now, Halcyon Noir is a book that he did with somebody else, B. Pez. The art in here, very different. I really love the use of negative color in this, or negative space, and the art on this piece. Oh, man, I want to see more freaking black and white anthologies like this. This is just crazy. I love how much this reminds me of like experiencing a page back in the day when I was young and seeing a Bill Sienkiewicz page or something from like Stray Toasters. I don't know. There's a magnificence about about Max's work in a lot of stuff that is absolutely incredible. I really want to thank Bob because Max also did the art for this Altered Carbon graphic novel, which has just been collected by Dynamite. But unfortunately, he didn't get any comp copies, and Bob got me a copy of this so we can do an Indie Spotlight series just on this. Even though he didn't write this, and his creator-owned book, I think, is what I would prefer to talk about. I unfortunately can't do that on YouTube. However, Max is not only incredibly talented, but he's one of the guys that I've talked to that has a game plan. He's moving forward. I can really see this guy doing stuff. He's going to have a good career. He's very, very intelligent and a nice guy to talk to. And his art is it's not only is it really good, but it is extremely varied. I love a lot of his layouts. He is not afraid to push himself in new and different directions. This doesn't necessarily look at all like his other book, but you can see similarities throughout it whenever you start pulling stuff apart. I'm really interested to talk to Max and see about some of his influences, because in here, I see a lot of like Jeff Darrow and maybe like some Mobius in these really nice light lines, a lot of architecture. Stuff's very precise, well laid out. And then there's some interesting layouts and stuff. Like, you know, we got the almost a Bernard Krigstein breakdown of action. Most people are not willing to put in the time and effort. Yes, he is a big fan of building that action. And most people are not willing to put in the work of having to actually redraw. Because if you notice, he's not just comping. It's not just that drawing again. He is redrawing it. It's great. Max is a super talented guy. Like I said, I don't want to talk too much about this right super duper now because I'm going to do an indie spotlight series. I've already talked to Max. We're going to do an interview and hang out and really pull this kind of apart. But I did want to show this off. I wanted to say thank you to Bob because this is going to make getting access to this kind of material, the stuff that I cannot afford to get for the channel, but would really like to cover, is going to open an entire new avenue for letting me not only talk about stuff and give me historical stuff that I can work with for episodes in my documentaries, but also good stuff that I can share with you guys and new creators and people that I think we should be talking to and covering and learning about. And Max Fox is definitely one of those guys. So thank you very much, Bob, for sending this in. We're getting down to it, guys. I promise. We've only got maybe 20 more books to look at. I know. Crazy, right? So, Pens and Petals. Now, Pens and Petals, again, look at all this cool ephemera. Like, I miss the days, and the pen that I showed you guys earlier, that was from Pens and Petals as well. But I just love taking it back and like all these awesome stickers. I gotta figure out something. I don't know. I think I might do my work chair that I've got set up in my studio, just all in like these wicked stickers you guys are sending me. So keep sending me stickers, please. I'm all about the ephemera. It's what I love. So Wesley the Robot. Wesley's been around for quite a while, as far as I know. Like about 3 years. Oh yeah, 2019. There we go. Yeah, very observant I am. One thing that I really like about this is a very bizarre paper stock choice. Like it's a combination of that like off-tone sepia brown and newsprint, but it's got that almost that DC feel, like half gloss. I really enjoy a lot of his designs. Really got me. There's something about like of all the books that I've been sent, this book just has like a ubiquitously outlaw feel to it in a not like a very conscious sense, like, oh, I'm gonna make a 1988 like outlaw, but no, man. But I can see like Dan Klaus in here. I can see like a lot of stuff going on inside of these pages, to be very honest. It takes me back to when I was getting like that glut of independent books from the late 80s, because they were so freaking cheap, no one could sell them anymore. His designs, the art in here really is captivating. It's simplistic. It reminds me of a lot of it, not all of it, but you can see it especially in like the hair. Dan Klaus, yeah, definitely I see Dan Klaus there, but also see a lot of Mike Allred. And interestingly, when I was reading this, I don't know how many of you guys are actually familiar with Mike's earliest stuff, but Mike did a graphic novel called Dead Air long ago. It was presented in black and white. I believe they're coloring it for the newest edition of the Madman Library. And these issues that are done on the newsprint, like this off-color newsprint, remind me a lot of that. For me, personally, and it's not because I'm nostalgic, okay? Because I'm not coming at this book from a big nostalgic angle. There is a loss to the art when you compare these two. There's something more suiting and tangible about these first issues. I know it's more cost prohibitive at this point to print on newsprint in many cases, which is ridiculous. So if it's going to cost you more, I get going to high gloss. It had a very unique feel to the first couple of issues that I hadn't seen in much of anything else. And this feels so crisp and clean. But Wesley's been around for quite a while. I believe he sent me the latest issue, which is, yes, issue 8. Now, I believe that there are some issues out of print. I think 3 and 4 are out of print at this point, physically. But I do believe that you can get digital, like, Comixology copies and stuff if you want. He also sent me along his fanzine, The Crop Show, Creep of the Crop. And this is totally up my alley. I love mini comics. I love black and white. I love horror. I love anthology. I was all over this book. I like seeing stuff that takes me back to, like, finding self-published stuff in the shop where I was volunteering when I was younger. And I don't get that opportunity anymore. So it's really cool to get to flip through stuff like that. And there are some very striking. Like I said, I just see a lot of Mike Allred in the use of negative space. There's simplicity and stuff. Like some of his rendering, super cool. And I love that he just puts stuff together. You can tell, like, he gets an idea and then he makes it work. He puts it together and he makes it work. Oh yeah, and Pizza's Pizza. This is also a mini graphic novel that he sent me. I didn't get a super big chance to check this out, but if you can't tell by the man wearing a cheese helmet and where are the fish people? There are fish people. I get the feeling this one's going to be a fun ride. I don't exactly know what this one's about, but I got a chance when I was checking those out. I was getting really enamored with the art. And what's crazy is the art in this is very different. I haven't looked at the times, like the time spans on this stuff, but that was one thing that really did impress me was the variance in style. And there are certain pieces in here also where you can tell that anatomy belies a very intelligent, I'm sure it's, using reference or whatever, but it belies a good use of anatomical knowledge. And a lot of this is like very heavily cartooned, but the pen work, the brush work, maybe, I don't know. It's probably all digital at this point, but the pen and brush work on this, the line variance on that one, like the style didn't just change. It wasn't just like, I'm going to change up, and do a little things. Like, no, I'm going to totally change up my line weights and just do this completely differently. All right, guys. I'm not going to ramble too much, and I apologize to everybody else in this episode for what follows, because you guys had the misfortune of being in the episode where I found out about Tony effing McMillan the man. Holy God. Okay, guys. So Tony's going to be on the channel, no doubt. I've already gotten a bunch of people into his stuff just by showing live previews, like on my Instagram channel. The guy is unbelievable. Attaboy is where I started. It is from what I can tell, I'm not going to say this empirically, but it's at least semi-autobiographical retelling of like some basically childhood trauma about parent separation through the guide to a video game that, obviously it never existed, but no one else in the story remembers it existing. Like, people are forgetting that it exists. Tony's art is something to behold. I'm not sure I've ever seen anything exactly like it, which in the highest possible complimentary regards. There's Ashley Wood. There's a lot of Jim Mahfood. I can see a lot of European influence, maybe some Bill Sienkiewicz with the coloring. I see Michelle Fife also in some of this work. And Alexis Zirrit. Just to name some contemporaries, I think maybe that, McMillan might be aware. They might be pulling from him. I don't know. McMillan has been around for a while. Extremely talented guy. As you can tell, very visually oriented storytelling that Tony employs on Attaboy. And he's a writer. He's also got a couple of novels, and Creatures, which we're going to look at here in a second, is very text heavy. So I think he's capable of a wide breadth of different types of storytelling. And his art and layout is very much in service of whatever he's doing. This book read very interestingly because it's a guide for a video game, but it also kind of devolves into a comic book for certain pages, splashes, layouts, that kind of thing. Very interesting. Yeah. So this is like, kind of Nintendo Power style, like ads you would see, or talking about the video game. Now, I'm not gonna lie, like I said, very art heavy story in this. Didn't take me an inordinately long time to read it the first time, and that was a good thing, because I read it a second time right then, and I choked up. As a guy who grew up in a household where my parents separated at a very young age, I dealt with some pretty severe issues about that kind of stuff, and about loss of identity and not necessarily remembering that period in my life all that super well. Maybe I'm reading into this. I can't wait to talk to Tony and do a full-on indie spotlight about his work, and talk to him about Attaboy and a few other things in particular. But I choked up, will not lie. Excellent book. I do have a tendency to be a little bit emotional when it comes to art that gets to me, but I can't recommend Attaboy enough. If the art is not enough to sell you, let me tell you, it is a quick read, but it also is one of the more impactful reads that I have had in a long time. Beautiful tonal shift here at the end, the black and white, and all of Tony's stuff is very affordable. It's all in print. This is $12. Unfortunately, for some stuff, if you're buying as a collector, like if you need your stuff to remain in like super mint condition, buy 2 copies of Creatures. There is some serious gutter loss in this book that if you're not willing to like pry at your book a little bit, you're not going to be able to get to. That is my only complaint about this book. And I wanted to lead with that, because otherwise I would just be blathering on about how magnificent of a piece of work Creatures is. It marks the biggest discovery for me. Like, Attaboy hooked me. I was in, right? But I haven't found somebody that hit me like Victor Alpe in a long time. Attaboy choked me up. Creatures engrossed me. Very text heavy. It's a character driven story. Deals with a kid who's, it's a biography of a kid who's going into special effects, starts out on Jaws, works his way up through practical effects. This is the first trade paperback. It collects the first arc. Right now, Tony is working on, or finished with, and soliciting the finished sequel to Creatures, which will kind of, I believe, complete the saga. Now, again, this is text heavy, right? There's a lot of reading to be done. This is dense. You're not going to sit down and like inhale this. But the art is absolutely magnificent as well. I mean, you will spend time, you'll stop and just take these pages in, because Tony does not squander space. He's very mindful of a lot of things. And when you're looking at imagery and the way that he's portraying things, it's very important for setting the tone and containing, like, foreshadowing in some cases what's going to happen, what has happened, making allusions to realities that like characters don't want to admit to or aren't aware of. It is this book is absolutely crazy great. Crazy great. I could keep flipping through this thing and talking about Tony McMillan for like an hour. What I will say is this book is $20. And it does have a little bit of adult material in it, so I had to censor that out. But my daughter saw the art. She's 6, and she was so enamored that she made me read this to her instead of her nightly bedtime story. And I don't mean a little bit. I mean, we read for like 30, 40 minutes. Okay? This book is incredible. Visually, the storytelling is wonderful. What's really nice about Tony is, I think because he's a novelist, maybe, he has a great grasp of characters, and everything has a very unique voice. Now, I found out, unfortunately, after Tony sent me this, that he has a magazine anthology series. I wish I had copies of his magazine anthology series to show off. I might pester him, or maybe see if I can perhaps swing affording them for the indie spotlight when we do them, because his graphic novels, which are Creatures was released as single issues and floppies. I kind of want to dig them out so they'll be a little bit easier to read, and I really like Creatures, so it would be something that I would like to have in my collection. But this is his Friday the 13th comic book. This resembles a lot more of what I saw in his magazine anthology, as far as like the layout, and it's a little bit more reminiscent of a traditional comic book. And I don't mean that as a slam or anything. I just mean that like Tony's stuff is so bitingly original that in a lot of cases it's its own beast. It's just its own thing, which I absolutely love. But this also shows that he's got a really good grasp on the use of a comic book page, as far as a traditional, like, this doesn't have superheroes in it, but it is presented. I believe this is based on the original script that was going to be Friday the 13th Part 9. And story is great. It's got Tommy Jarvis and all the final girls. They all like team up and they dredge up Jason, and they're like, well, if that's Jason, so who's murdering everybody? Like, what is happening? What's going on? And they have to unravel this mystery. Art is absolutely astounding in this. You can see here, I see like Fife in some of this. I could be wrong. I'm really interested to talk with Tony more in depth. The coolest thing about this freaking book is it's a Friday the 13th book, and he doesn't sell this. You can't buy this book. What you can do is, I believe for I think it's like $5, you can buy a Friday the 13th sketch from him, and he'll send you this comic. So you get original art, and you get this freaking... And let me tell you, you're going to flip over this comic. The layout, man, everything about this is so just insanely cool. This is where I see Alexis Zirich. Maybe... Now, I could be totally wrong, because I'm getting kind of pretentious here, but I do see Drew Lay in a lot of his work as well. If you're not, familiar with Drew Lay, maybe even some like Topi as far as the color schemes and stuff goes. And then there's Lumen, and I'm going to save Lumen for the Indie Spotlight episode, so we have something that we have not looked at all. Let me just tell you, this isn't all that Tony's got out. Tony's got other stuff out. He's got that magazine, the anthology stuff. Guys, get on this. You know me, I don't try to hawk stuff on the channel. I have nothing to gain by people selling stuff. And you need to get in on Tony McMillan. You owe it to yourself to get in on Tony McMillan. I'm not joking. The prices are insane. He's an incredibly cool guy, and I am so grateful that I got to check out Wizard Magazine, the Wizard Magazine that we checked out in the last Indie Spotlight episode. Thank you, Eli, for doing all of the legwork there and including some stuff, because it had a preview of Attaboy. Tony is one of my favorite creators that I've come up on in a long time. Speaking of favorite creators, and another book set of books we're not going to spend an inordinate amount of time on right this second. This is the Piss and Apocalypse series. Well, it's got other books too, but these are the Piss and Apocalypse series. Now, these are all mini comics. They're all put out by a guy named James Edward Clark, right? Well, if you guys pay any attention to the channel, then you know James Edward Clark is the dude that basically designed Uncle Jerk. Like, no plan. People had done him before. I'd sketched him, and my old tattoo master did a version of him. And then James took him, and he just nailed it. And ever since then, it's kind of been interpretations of his stuff. Pissant Apocalypse are his mini comics, and you can read these on his Instagram out of order many times because he likes to screw with people and post stuff from like the back forward. Be warned, nudity, not safe for work stuff. Anybody who follows the channel knows I'm not into a lot of adult stuff. It's not that I have like anything against it. Mostly it's just dumb and gratuitous, and I don't like the writing. But James is like super tongue-in-cheek about it, and there's something that's like R. Crumb level. Maybe I should be not looking at this, but it's so wonderful. I love it. And when I talk to James, like, it's so apparent that it's just his art. Like, he is a really, really good guy. I'm glad to be able to call James a friend, actually. He's been there for the channel and me over the years a lot. Just a stupid nice guy. And a lot of what's going on is he spent a ton of time doing figure studies of people, and he's very good at everybody has a different. If you watched my episode on Tales to Enlighten, then you've seen me rant about how much I love about James Edward Clark's characters' faces. The one thing I did want to mention here about these is the cool thing is you can't buy these mini comics, okay? You can read them for free on his Instagram. But, like I said, James did the Uncle Jerk design for the channel, right? Well, the deal is, you pay him $50, he'll draw you anything. When I say anything, he'll basically draw you whatever you want within reason, right? And you'll get it within like 24 freaking hours. Beautifully digitally colored. It's insane, right? With this, he just happened to send along an amazing... This is the kind of stuff that you'll get, right? Nice, original, like tiny, but wonderfully colored. It's also be digitally colored, and you'll have a digital copy. $50, anything you want. Within reason, you know, if you want like a cover, I believe he starts at like maybe $150. It's painfully low. And great guy, great work. I love his designs. He's just, his faces and stuff, very unique, and he's capable of a very wide breadth of stuff, which I super respect. And speaking of which, whenever you get one of these, you get the latest issue of Pissant Apocalypse. And if he's got any left, you also get Arthur and Boom Boom. Now, Arthur and Boom Boom, I was super stoked to check out because it's done in the old, like, bubble hose, or rubber bubble hose. In the old rubber hose style, the Fleischer animate, like a very, very Fleischer animation style influenced. And it's got two-color sepia spotting on it. This book freaking looks great. I do wish that I had this at full size. My eyes are not what they used to be, but I think this book would look really nice at full size. The cool thing too about James is he's got a really good eye for layout. So his even his mini comics, they're not difficult to read. I keep writing him to get stuff in print for people to buy because he is a super talented guy. He's got a couple of things coming out. There's actually a sequel to Tales to Enlighten that is getting ready to happen. It is on Kickstarter right now if you want to support it. James has got an 8-page story, I believe, in it. And there's hundreds of pages of other contributors. We've been talking Jack Kirby on the channel. And this week, we're going to be talking Jack Kirby's Return to Marvel in the 70s. And specifically, like the utter debacle that was his Captain America run. Tom happened to send me a couple of these absolutely gorgeous Marvel Treasury editions. Please, people, send me more. These things are incredible. I love looking at stuff this big. What's weird about this run on Captain America, right? A lot of this is happening absolutely outside of continuity. Like these are the bicentennial stories. If you're not familiar with the story with Kirby when he came back to Marvel, he refused to work on Thor, Captain America, or Thor, Fantastic Four, and the Hulk. So Lee stuck him on Captain America, but he wanted to tell stories out of continuity. Nobody was having it, and then by 1976, Kirby was so difficult to deal with that everybody relented. And they had him do this bicentennial, which is like out of continuity, older Cap, like World War II. Here he is in a dogfight. Just whatever Kirby wanted to do. Unfortunately, by this time, like Kirby's left eye, I think it was. Maybe he was right. I think it was his left eye. Basically, he was almost blind. So, like, a lot of this, the art is just crazy to look at. Storytelling in these, off the freaking wall, man. I mean, bananas, bonkers. Like, there was a lot of people that were trashing Jack Kirby at the time for being like a hack. They called him Jack the Hack. This is a prime example of why. It is, wow. Fantastic Four, on the other hand, yes, please. Dude, I mean, getting primetime Kirby like this size, yes, and it's Doom. Like, if you guys haven't figured it out, maybe I'm a little bit obsessed with Doc Doom. I'd love to do an episode, maybe where we like hang out and just stream and flip through one of these and talk about Jack Kirby and his work and his legacy after the series concludes here in like a couple of weeks. Yeah, I love that there's some like really great old Fantastic Four. And because looking at it like this size on newsprint, the way that it was supposed to be seen, dude, it's a whole different ball game, folks. There's a reason like these treasury editions, like they're not like crazy expensive. There's a reason people collect them. I mean, really, there is just a world of difference between the like Bam Bam and this. Oh, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. I wish Marvel like did treasury editions of everything they'd ever put out back in the day like this. They did a lot of them. I wish I owned more of them. And I can't thank Tom enough because he sent me in not one, but two freaking Kirby Fantastic Four. I think, finally, we are at the end. Oh my gosh. So, speaking of special treats from Tom. Now, these last three books, I really need to kind of, I think, express like what they mean to me. Because, like I said, I learned a lot about Bernard Krigstein, and I came to respect him even more than I had before I started the documentary when I did that series. And Tom was a big part of that series. He contributed to the script. He helped me with fact checking and a lot of stuff. Tom was instrumental, and I wanted to thank him again for that, just on channel. And he sent me a box of stuff, those Krigstein books, which were amazing, but he sent me an original copy of Squadron 6. And this represents a piece of history. This isn't a magazine or a comic book to me. The only thing that could get closer is the original Bob Stewart interview with Bernard Krigstein. And that is considered to be the first ever historical, in-depth interview ever conducted for comic books. That interview is included in here and expanded. This is not like a super cheap book to pick up. I did not think that I would ever own a copy of this for me. Like, this is holding a big part of history and why my channel exists and what I draw from. And being able to look at this and appreciate, because this is a fanzine, right, for EC Comics. And they helped propel comics history and the archiving of that information and the sharing and the interest in that immensely beyond measure. And it is really an amazing experience to be able to finally flip through this. I only had a scan to work with when I did the documentary. It was not a good scan, and I don't do well with reading digital stuff, so I never got to enjoy it. And because this was a gift, I sat down and I read this front to back. It is an absolutely astounding piece of publication. Also, in the back, you've got the follow-up piece that's got Spiegelman, man. I mean, this thing it's not cheap and it's not easy to come by in general. Very beautiful copy, wonderful bib in the back, like bibliography. But really just being able to hold this and like flip through it and having this in the collection, like as a historian, this means a lot to me. And he also made sure to include another copy of Squatron. I had never even actually gotten to check this one out. I'm going through and getting to enjoy one of the best fan publications ever made. I mean, this thing is just wall-to-wall information. Oh, yeah, it's great Frazetta collector piece in here. Talking about original art, what he's done, sketches, that kind of stuff, where stuff's gone, where it's been, the history of what he's doing. Got some great pencils. I really like the Reed Crandall piece, too. I'm a big Reed Crandall fan. I think he's super underappreciated, so it was nice to see some work on Reed Crandall. And I wanted to show this to you guys. This is a fan publication, right? But look at the inventive printing that they're doing here with Wortham. I really like this. Good article, too. One of the first articles that I've read that lays out how the Comics Code Authority and the ACMP and everything, all the other companies were out for gains and to put him out of business because he was threatening their livelihood with his degenerate horror magazines. It was so freaking fun to read. But really, this Squatron, this Bernard Kriegstein piece, really, man, I mean, I almost choked up. I didn't think I'd ever have one of these. It's a solid copy, gorgeous piece, man. He sent me like one of the books that I've been lusting after for probably 10 years, and you will obviously be able to tell why right away. Look at this look at that Bernie Wrightson cover. That's prime time, 1977. It's a comic art convention catalog, and I love it because in the back there's room for autographs. There's some wonderful ads throughout here too. I'd love to do more of like a flip through on this one. Yeah, screw it, why not? We'll look at we've been here long enough, right? So we got ads for like a bunch of like the DC stuff going on. I'm a big sucker for Marshall Rogers. I grew up on Steve Englehart's writing too, so heavy metal. What's really cool too is there's a interview by Bruce Jones, obviously, about Bernie Wrightson. I'd never read this. I didn't even know it existed. Interviews with him talking about this period, like just post Frankenstein, where he's kind of like talking with friends and not just doing the same PR stuff. Pretty rare. It's not a long piece, but it is really cool to see some of this information like presented factually, so I know it's not just fairy tales and folklore. They've got some really cool articles on here, like John Stanley, Little Lulu. I don't know how many of you guys are fans of Little Lulu, but there he is with freaking Carl Barks and Don Phelps. So that should tell you, he was big time back in the day. And see, these are the portfolios I was talking about. Like, I would love to get a hold of, like, especially like a Tony DeZunga. There's like a Severin. Gosh, there was some really great Alex Toth. I would love to see his portfolios. Jeff Jones, Catherine Jeffrey Jones. I mean, you cannot go wrong. Kirby, Simonson, Nick Cardy. Man, I mean, Joe Sinnott, like, Frank Bruner was always a winner, though. I'd be interested to see Terry Austin's stuff from around this time as well. And this is a, like, pinup section of guys that are going to be at the convention, showing their stuff. Great, some good, really solid stuff in here. You know, Al Milgram, Mike Pollard, John Romita, freaking Neil Adams is in here, John Severin. Yeah, Severin. Unusual piece for him, too. I don't know. Kind of channeling some Barry Windsor Smith there to me. Some cool, just some neat stuff. Romita, I believe. Yeah, obviously. There's a really nice, I think there's a really nice Jeffrey Jones piece in here, too. Tasty. I always dig Kinbar. And that's a Dick Giordano, but I don't remember who he did it with. Like Nick Wiacek, I think. Yeah, completely atypical. Interesting to see some of this stuff that's not done for like commercial purposes. You know, they're doing it for them. Toth piece. This is what makes me be like, I really would love to see his portfolios. I mean, I love his minimalism. You cannot beat it. I thought it's a nice juxtaposition, too. Good Mike Manley piece. Catherine Jeffrey Jones, man. I mean, just, there is something about Jones that just, I'm freaking enamored. I wish I had more stuff, but it's all like those old horror magazines and stuff, and I can't afford to pick those dang things up off eBay anymore. Or anywhere else, because I don't have any shops to dig where they got any of that stuff, where they don't price stuff on eBay. Yeah, Gil Kane. Interesting that they did a page. Crazy. Ooh, nice. Man. I'm a Flash Gordon sucker. Lackluster. That's a lackluster Gordon for otherwise really well done piece. Gray Morrow was never super great at like the Buffy super muscular guys. He always did better with like the evil. Yeah. I do like his, he always had great faces though, man. Can't beat him. Ah, Kirby. Yeah. You can tell that eye's gone. Poor guy, man. Great Simonson piece. That Simonson piece is so atypical, though. I love the minimalism and the layout and stuff, but like when I saw it, the line work, you know, in here, the shading, I see it, both and the kind of the composition, you know. Now when I knew it was Simonson, but when I first saw it, I was like, wow, who's inking? Like, who gave Bob Layton all that energy? It's like, oh no, that's Walter Simonson. Way better. I mean, I kind of apples and oranges, but I love Nick Cardy, but Nick Cardy was always like my horror cat. I loved Nick Cardy. Neil Adams, when we've entered like hyper over rendering everything mode. Joe Sinnott, that freaking thing is brutal. I mean, gorgeous. Bruner. Dude, I'm a sucker for Bruner. I don't do a lot of, like, fantasy stuff, and I certainly don't do a lot of, like, adult stuff, but Bruner, god dang, talk about a talented guy. And I don't think Frank Bruner ever really got a fair shake. Like, you know, he had that, like, brief minute on Howard the Duck. And this is cool. This is like where to go when you're in Philadelphia for the comic convention, like other places to visit. Then there's a piece on Frank Thorne. I wish this Frank Thorne piece was longer, man. Nobody remembers Frank Thorne. I grew up on a lot of really cheap Marvel comics, and one of them happened to be Red Sonja, so I remember Frank Thorne. And the end of this is all just cosplay, which blew me away. This is 1977. I did not expect to find like a massive cosplay section in the back. Very accurate Nightcrawler, I might add, and Red Sonja. And here's another one. I mean, like, this is portfolios, like prints, portfolios, posters, art books. This lineup of stuff is just ridiculous. Like, Bruce Jones is on there. Like, Gray Morrow, I always love his, like, stuff. There's another Alex Toth. Bernie Wrightson. I need a time machine so I can go back and just get this stuff and bring it back so we can all enjoy it and look at it. So yeah, okay guys, sorry, I've kept you forever. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys all saw something that you liked, maybe even want to pick up. And if you saw anything that I didn't mention, I'm going to be doing an episode on that you'd like to see examined in more detail or have suggestions, please get in the comments below and let me know about that. If you're interested in sending stuff in, use my contact information to get a hold of me. And I'll have you send some stuff to the studio. Thanks so much for sticking with me. I hope you all enjoyed, maybe even learned something. If you did enjoy what you saw, make sure you hit that like button. Think about getting in the comment section below and letting me know. And if you really enjoyed what you saw, make sure you Hulk smash that subscribe button. If you do that, make sure you ding the little notification bell so you never miss another video or premiere again. If you feel like you're in a position to help the channel grow, think about using the link in the description below to sign up for my Patreon page. For as little as $3 a month, you get access to tons of behind the scenes posts, updates, exclusive content like uncut interviews, and you can even get your name in the credits. If you want to support the channel but Patreon is not your thing, have no fear. You can finally sign up for membership right here on YouTube. Just hit the little join button and make sure to select the tier and perks that fit you best. If that's not enough, you can also make one-time donations towards specific goals or just tip the channel using the Ko-Fi link in the description below. And you can even pick up your very own JerkComic shirts like the ones you see on the screen now. As always, this video was brought to you by the Jerk Broadcasting Service, as well as generous grants from the Patreon, Ko-Fi, and YouTube members you see on the screen now. I seriously want to thank every single one of you that supports the channel and helps make these videos possible. I really hope the quality and content is getting better, and I can't wait to see where the next year takes us with your continued support. Thank you again for helping this crazy dream of mine become a reality and for sticking with me. I hope you all enjoyed, maybe even learned something. And as always, I really, truly, and honestly ask only two things. Keep hitting those local shops and keep reading comics.